Always trust.
We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world?
Is that going to
Afghanistan is a country ravaged by war, poverty and internal conflict. But there is one success story the country likes to point out: its education system. Since the Taliban was driven from power in 2001, the Afghan Education Ministry says the number of students have risen by nearly 110%. Female literacy, once non-existent under the Taliban, is now said to have tripled, with 42% of girls enrolled in schools across the country. But the quality of education provided is questionable, with many teachers themselves not having received formal training. Corruption within the education system is endemic, and many children in rural areas still controlled by the Taliban are unable to attend school. At times, cultural and religious sensitivities are also an obstacle to quality education. Al Jazeera recently visited a school in which a male teacher was ensconced in a box while teaching his class of female students. With all these challenges facing him, Education Minister Farooq Wardak, who recently attended the Educate a Child Summit in Doha, has nevertheless promised universal access to primary schooling for all Afghan children by 2020. But how is this going to happen? We'll find out as Afghanistan's Education Minister talks to Al Jazeera. Minister, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure for me.
If you could just start off by giving us an insight into the sort of education system that is in Afghanistan. How different is the curriculum in Afghanistan? How different is that to, say, your average Western curriculum?
Quantity-wise, we inherited a disabled, dysfunctioning, and isolated education system in 2002, which altogether there were 1 million students with 0% girl, and taught by 20,000 teacher with 0% women, and 3,400 schools. None of them had a proper and useful environment, and that the curriculum was in no way a standard curriculum, a unified curriculum. And the difference between this curriculum and the last number of a variety of curriculums those were taught in part of Afghanistan is about 40% changes. So in 2002, the process of making a framework for curriculum began, but I am very, very glad and honored and proud to say that last month we have completed. There are altogether 2,161 books in our curriculum. So I'm happy to say that all 2,161 of them have been written according to the framework, and all have been printed, and not even in our both national languages, but we were able to write and print the curriculum in the third official languages of the minority. There are 8 minority languages, in all of which we have written curriculum. So today in Afghanistan, I can claim that every kid who is in the education system, they have a book in their own mother tongue.
It's certainly very inclusive, and it's certainly very impressive how far Afghanistan's education system has gone. Now, you yourself have promised that by 2020, all Afghan children will have access to primary schooling. How confident are you that you can actually achieve that aim?
I'm absolutely confident, and there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that we will not be able to do. Because, very simply speaking, I want to compare our past with the future. If we were able to increase the number of students from 1 million to 11.5 million, and if we were able to increase the number when it comes to the equity of education.
All that was done in 12 years, though. You have only 6 years left to achieve this aim.
But look, if you ask me what were the serious most challenges when we just took over as a new government, there was a huge backlog of the school-age children or growing out of it. There were 8 million in number. By today, thanks God, with the support of our people, with the support of our friends in the international community, we brought the number of the school-age children who are out of school to 1.3 million. My plans are telling me that next year it will be zero.
By next year?
By next year.
You're very confident of this.
By year 2020, madam, I never said that we will put all of them into school. They would have completed the primary education by year 2020. Next year we are going to make it.
At the same time, though, Afghanistan faces a lot of challenges, and corruption is one of the major challenges. And of course, your ministry, the Education Ministry, has not shied away from corruption as well. It has been affected by corruption. Now, there are reports that salaries are being paid to ghost teachers, and those are teachers that don't actually exist. Money is being given to schools that have actually shut down or don't exist as well. Now, this money supposedly goes to local councillors, to local security groups as well. And there are reports of rampant bribery within the education sector itself. All this is happening under your watch, Minister. What are you doing?
Corruption is there. I think it is, as long as human beings are there, there will be a degree of corruption. In Afghanistan, there is corruption, but of course, it varies from department to department. And the ghost teacher, I am very, very happy to tell you that by last year, we completely finished the doubt of having a ghost teacher in the system, because in the past there was no proper hardware and software database. Today we have electronic database, and today we have paper database. Today, when you just click on your computer, any teacher you want to find, the database will tell you that this is so and so, son or daughter of so and so, and this is the level of their education, this is the number of teachers of their experiences, and this is his present location. So I would have a very, very serious doubt that today there will be any ghost teacher.
You're very confident of that?
I am absolutely confident.
What about monies that going to schools that are actually shut down, and that money is actually going to local councillors and security groups?
There is a law that if a school temporarily, if a school is closed down by security reasons, for some while we keep the school with the aim, with the confidence that we will be able to reopen it. That is the period, if you say that the money is there, but money will never be wasted. You know,
but the money is going to local councillors, though.
Local council, you mean, what do you mean the local council?
Those who are running the area, and they're just taking the money while the school is actually shut down.
Madam, it will be rather impossible that thousands and thousands of people within the local council, within the local shuras, within the parents groups, and within the students, the entire world know that this is the amount that came for the salaries of the teacher, but it has been distributed among the people. I can't believe it, you know. As soon as, I mean, one of the best way to fight corruption, my advice to the world will be that make the decision making decentralized. Make the decision making as inclusive as possible. Make the decision making process as represented as possible. Once the thing is taken from one man or from two men to hundreds and thousands of men, the possibility of the money being misused or divided among themselves is almost next to nil. It doesn't exist. As far as the corruption is concerned, madam, I must tell you that the corruption is there, but more than 90% of the corruption is in the big contracts, you know. The big contracts are, even I am not allowed as a Minister of Education.
So you're talking about the big contracts that are coming from foreign companies?
Exactly. So the big,
from governments?
Major part of the corruption goes to the big players who are not Afghan.
Who are they?
Those who are giving the money. The money, a majority portion of the money goes back to their people, into their companies, into their own pockets. We are ready. I, as a Minister of Education, I am ready to be accountable for every single penny. My government is ready to be accountable for every single penny that has been spent through the government system. But the international community has spent the money without us being accountable, without us being even informed that this is the contract signed by this with whom, For which amount and for which
So
duration?
you're accusing your donors of corruption?
I'm accusing that international partner responsible for the major part of contract, and the contract are signed by the international community, not by the Afghan government.
And who are they?
As I've told you, that those people who are allocating money to Afghanistan, they have the ownership of the money.
Are you talking about governments, or are you talking about foreign organizations?
Could be countries, governments, could be big international organizations, and could be anything, but those who bring the money to support the people of Afghanistan, they do not give the money through the appropriate financial system of the country. That is the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Finance, that is the central bank, and that is the process through which the money should go.
Could it be because they don't trust the Afghan government? Because they know the level of corruption?
Madam, but this is not a solution, that if you don't trust anybody or any government or any institution, you bypass this altogether. This is neither a trustful procedure to make a parallel mechanism. In my understanding, in my own experiences, if you don't trust somebody, some institution, some government, work with it and try to improve it and try to bring it to the level that you make your confidence. But bypassing it, making a parallel system, making your own system, and ignore that and feed the system more than what it can absorb, and ignore the system which is eventually responsible for the country. These are neither solutions.
Let's talk about the success that you've had with girls being enrolled in the education system. There are still quite a number of girls, particularly in rural, conservative areas, that are not allowed to go to school because of societal pressures or so. What sort of dialogue are you having with these communities to allow their girls, their daughters, to be educated and empowered?
We try to make our community informed, educated, and we try to make them contributing into the school, and the ultimate goal is that community take the ownership of education. That is what, in the area that we have achieved, the schooling system is running perfectly. Even those people who are destabilizing the country, they are taking away the security from us. Even they are not able, because community is standing behind the schools, and they tell to the spoilers, to the insurgents, to those who are destabilizing, hey, keep away from the schools. They are our property. They are my children, my daughter, they are studying. So don't make any harm, otherwise we will harm you.
On that point, the Taliban attacks against schools have definitely reduced. They definitely have reduced. Yeah. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that your ministry is actually having negotiations with the Taliban. They're trying to get them to be on par with the education curriculum in Afghanistan. How much have you had to negotiate with the Taliban to allow schools to be opened in their areas?
Madam, from my day one till today, this is completely 6 years, there is no day that I have not negotiated with the Taliban, and through the community, with the community elders, with the community religious scholars, and the representative body. You know, around each school, I have made a school protection shura. The responsibility, the composition of the school protection shura is that there is a representative of the student, representative of the parents, a representative of the influential people, representative of the scholars, representative of any other elected body. You know, so that shura is responsible. Of course, I am working with the shuras. I am working with the Taliban, with those who are behind the insecurity, with those who are behind closing the schools, and using the community, the message the community had. They went to those people who were not allowing the girls to go to school, and they went to them that, hey guy, you may have a reason to fight, for example, with the Afghan army, with the Afghan soldier, with the Afghan police, with the NATO, with the ISAF, with other. What are your reason that you are not allowing my girls and boys to go to school? You know what was the response? They failed to have any response. They said from now on, there will be no disruption. So school will be considered as a peace zone.
School will be considered as a peace zone, but what's been the compromise, though? As you said, the Shura has been able to work with the Taliban to allow the schools to be opened. You know, there are reports that the Taliban, on the other side, has had to negotiate or has to dictate what the curriculum is. And they say you must only teach the Quran, no girls must go to school, there is no teacher of the opposite sex. So how much negotiation, how much compromise has had to be made?
Number one, there is zero compromise. The level of compromise is absolutely zero, and I welcome you to Afghanistan and send your team and your delegation. They find a place for me, a village for me, a school for me, a class for me, that they tell you that this and this subject is banned by the Taliban. There is absolutely nothing of that. Of course, I have received demands that this subject should be increased and that should be decreased. I have told them that write it formally for me. Write it formally to me by the Taliban movement. These are the changes that you want. Let's set committee, you know. Let's set committee and we will talk. There should be representative from the community. If the community agree with that taking into account the responsiveness of the education system against the demand of the day, if there was any subject, any chapter, any page in my books which is not responsive to the daily and growing needs of the people of Afghanistan and of the world, then of course we'll remove it. But if you found no page, no chapter, no book which is not responsive to the demand of the people, then why we should remove that?
Recently, Al Jazeera visited a certain school in Afghanistan, and this school had a classroom of girls. Now, the only teacher that was available at this school was a male teacher, but he was hidden behind a box to teach girls. Where is there tolerance in terms of gender equality here in Afghanistan? Shouldn't the male teacher just be allowed to teach as a normal male teacher in front of girls?
Look, madam, today, I'm talking to you, I'm presenting to you the overall pictures of Afghanistan. There could be nitty-gritty in some areas, for example, in the 11.5 million students that I have, and the 220,000 teachers that I have or the country has. There could be deviation on the part of one or two, but the overall picture, what I am presenting to you today, I have 30% male school, I have 16% female school, in the remaining 56% or mixed schools. So this particular story has never come to my attention. Never,
but it
ever.
Certainly does highlight the sensitivities of which you face as the Minister of Education when it comes to trying to implement education right across the country.
Madam, I fully agree with you that there are challenges, there are insecurity, but this is up to educated human being to try to work alongside the security and convert it into stability, and to try to convert the challenges into opportunities. So if I say that there were no challenges, no, I will be wrong. There were thousands and millions of challenges, but we were able to overcome them. There will be further challenges, and we are there to overcome them. Why? We are there to fight the challenges and convert it into the opportunities.
There is, of course, the unofficial education that kids in Afghanistan, particularly in rural conservative areas, might have. How confident are you that no extreme ideology is being propagated through
Madam,
Afghan
I am
schools?
fully confident. I am fully confident the preschool education is everywhere in the world. Everywhere in the world. In Afghanistan, the most famous preschool education is before the schooling age. Before a child becomes 7 years old, they go to the mosque and they begin from alphabet. Okay? They begin from alphabet and they read the Holy Quran, and there is nothing in the Holy Quran which is wrong. So I think that's the best way for preparing kids to enter into the formal education. Our informal education is mostly through the schools and through the communities, and through the community one class, only one class schools. I think there are more than 9,000 community-based schools which are one class, and we are trying to teach the curriculum of 3 years. In 3 years, we make them ready to join the formal education system. So I have no worry, I have no doubt about the availability of non-formal education, preschool education, but that I see is, I find it very much in synergy with a formal education system.
Now, sir, you've been quoted as saying, "My responsibility is to bring unity, not disunity in the country. I am not going to encourage a divisive education agenda." But your critics have accused you of literally rewriting Afghanistan's history books and glossing over 20 years of civil war, of unrest, of the Russian invasion, of the Taliban insurgency. What do you say?
Madam, let me give you the full background of that. That happened 2 years ago. Some people wanted me to write a book of history. You know, there is one subject of history which is taught in the schooling system of Afghanistan. And they wanted the photos of some individual to be included in the history book and some people to be excluded from the history book. The reason why I have said that UNESCO and other international organizations are interpreting the history as something which is before 50 years ago. Today I am alive. I used to be part of the war, and some other people are alive. They used to be part of the war, and my son is sitting, and their son is sitting in one classroom. So under one classroom, under one ceiling, if I give a book, in that book, there are some individuals which are praised and some other individuals which are rejected. But the sons or the family members of both of them are sitting in one classroom. That was the division of Afghanistan. And I think I am following international standard. The events that have been collected in a book under the name of history book are those events which are 50 years old, not the current 50 years. This is what I tried, and I succeeded. I was able to communicate with those people who wanted to pressurize the education system, to change the history book, and I was able to communicate and to convince them.
Now, moving forward, NATO and US troops are expected to leave Afghanistan this year, in fact, and as a result, there is a possibility that foreign funding may actually decrease because of a lack of confidence in the stability of Afghanistan. Where will you get your funding for education?
Madam, if you take the real definition of development, then the answer to this question is very easy. And thanks God that we have applied the real development in Afghanistan and the education development. The real development is say that no developmental intervention will be sustainable unless and until it is owned by the local people. This gives answer to so many questions, madam. So right from day one, my emphasis was that anything that I am bringing into the society should be familiar with that, the society should be educated with it, and the society should say that, yes, I believe in that, and I protect it, I own it. So my emphasis right from day one has not been on the external support. Rather, I need external support, but not as a primary thing. Primary support should be the local support. And the external support that should come, that should support the local support.
Now
Did you get my point?
I certainly do. Now, you believe that Afghanistan's education system should be a model for other countries who may be going through the same sort of conflict and post-Civil War development as well. Why is that?
Because in the last 12 years, you know, Afghanistan emerged from a 20 years war, but in the last 12 years, war has not stopped, okay? There was suicides, there was explosions, there was destruction, but alongside the destruction, we were able to fulfill our promises by 150% or 200%. What was that? 9 years ago, when we made our Afghanistan National Development Strategy, ANDS, every country should have that. And the objective of every sectors were there in the ANDS, Afghan National Development Strategy. According to that strategy, today I should have had 8 million students. Today I should have had 10,000 schools, but I have 17,700 schools instead of 10,000. I have 11.5 million students instead of having 8 million. So alongside the war and destruction, the formula for that, the prescription is you try to keep your own people with you. If you were able to keep your own people with you, then external factors, no matter how strong they are, it cannot deviate your way. So my message to the world is, if we in Afghanistan were able to do it, to develop education in a revolutionary way. Alongside the war going on, alongside the destruction going on, the formula was that I try to count very much on my people. We will not be there. I will not be a minister forever. ISAF will not be there. NATO will not be there. Our own national security forces will not be there. But who will be there? That is the local people. So count on the local people, and the local people will do it very well.
Minister, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera.
You're always welcome. Thank you very much. A pleasure. Thanks.